Good afternoon or good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, having a joint meeting with two groups. It's not an opportunity that we have every day, but it's always a pleasure, and it's really important that we move forward with this improved coordination between the two boards. This survey that we decided already some time ago to do together before we move forward with our consultations with respect to the strategy to 2831 is an important initiative. As you know, we have been working on this already for some time now with a joint working group, the staff of both boards working together very closely, and Tom and myself very involved as well in this process. There have been some ebbs and flows, as it should, because if we were to get it right immediately, probably we were not getting it right. So the fact that we are making decisions as we go with respect of what this survey should cover, what the right approach should be, what would be the content, and etc. It's a good sign of involvement of both boards, both staffs, and both chairs. So the purpose of this joint meeting today is to analyze or discuss the adjustments or amendments to the draft survey that has been submitted to both boards, further to the discussions that we had earlier this week on both boards. There are not that many adjustments. I don't believe, well, there are always surprises, but I don't believe that there are significant reasons for concerns or disagreements. But of course, the boards are the owners of this survey, and Tom and I, we are the less important people here because we are just the ones who have been driving this a little bit, but it's for the boards to discuss, decide, and see if at the end of in 1 hour time or so we can have agreement around what this survey will be. I'll take the opportunity to thank both staffs for the great work that they have been doing. It's not always easy, namely for them to navigate these slight changes and sometimes hesitations, which are normal when we are thinking about the strategy for 2831, which is so far from here. It's not always easy to deal with Tom and myself. We recognize that, so thank you very much for your patience and resilience. With that, I think that I would give the floor to the staff to guide the boards, the two boards, through the adjustments that were made to the draft survey that you have analyzed. So we have decided not to say much, Tom and I, unless it's necessary. So I will open, Tom will close, and so you will hear less from us and more from the staff and from the boards. Thank you very much, and I will give the floor to the staff. I don't know who is going.
Thank you.
Jasper, please.
Thank you, Gabriella. And thank you all here for your comments earlier this week that we received. So we made, as you saw yesterday, a lot of changes to the survey, and I'll walk you through the 4 more areas, or Sylvia and I will walk you through the area where we made most changes, or the most significant changes. So let's start with the first one. That is the question 4 that we included there. There were comments on the placement, whether it should be located at the beginning or at the end. And there were also lots of comments on the framing, because it's a high-level question, and there were questions around: do the respondents know how to respond to this one, given that where it is located? It's also, we've heard that it was hard to answer what success might look like, because the question was had 2 questions in there, and this was the one of it. Then there were several comments as well around the bullets, and the main concern there around the sub-bullets that were there to guide respondents. There was that it might limit the responses. So what have we done in response to these comments that we received from you? So we provided more context on this question, and how we did that was that we included the introductory paragraph that explains how the standard setting boards strategically position themselves in the question. So therefore it's more linked to that. So we thought that is a way of more clearly setting up this question. The other thing what we did, we moved the section on how the SSBs are connected in work and impact. We moved that from the background into this section. And again, because it's a higher level, it's an area that's higher, discusses it at a higher level. And it's better, we think it's better fits here in setting this question up. So we also simplified the question, and what we did there is by taking out the second piece of the question that deals with how success looks like. So right now it's just one question, and it's like, what do you believe the SSBs should aspire to achieve during the next strategy period? Then we also clarified that the bullets are meant for guidance. They're meant to guide the responses and not to limit respondents to just these areas. So we added a sentence to that regard. With regard to the placement, we still think that is best placed at the beginning. This is meant to be a higher level strategic question, and we think it's best placed at the start, because if you have it at the end, it could be seen as a wrap-up question, like, is there anything else you want to mention? And we really are trying to aim to this more strategic input from our stakeholders, and we hope that all these changes on the framing will help bringing that out as well. Then we go to the second area where we made some more changes, and that is around trend D, which is of the evolving structure and business models of accounting firms. So here there was a trend on private equity investments, and we received a comment that it's not just private equity investments that are there. It's also other ownership structures are emerging, and especially like one example was mentioned is that some accounting firms are also listed these days. So therefore, we made changes to reflect this and make it a bit broader and not just solely focusing on private equity investments. On D4. Which was about the changing work model. What we heard in your comments is that might be a bit outdated. So therefore we took it out of the trends. Then lastly, in this area, we made several changes to the actions. Based on your suggestions, I want to highlight one of them that relates to the IAASB considerations. So there we deleted the specific references to ISQ1, given a comment from the board. And we also broadened that it's not just to quality management at the firm level, but also could be at quality management at the engagement level. So we broadened this point. So with that, I'll hand it over to Sylvia, who will guide you through the other two main areas where there were some more significant changes.
Thank you, Jesper. So in section 4 regarding the trends, we also proposed some changes or mainly restructuring to the questions related to these trends. And the objective of these changes were really just aiming to make the questions a bit more streamlined, so there would be a better flow and the questions would be a bit more user-friendly to respond. As you can see in the revised or the updated version, the first question related to the trends, still focusing on the key trends identified in the document, but we enhanced this question a bit and included specific reference to the impacts that are currently involved. So we are asking respondents to tell their views on the impact we have identified and whether there is any other impact that the two boards should consider. Also, following or the next question is that in the original or the previous version, we asked respondents' views on any additional trends, but there were two questions on that. There were one question on under the mega trends and also any additional trends. So we believe that it's unnecessary to have two questions. So now we have a new more general questions, and we are asking input on any other trends that are not included in the document. So that is the second question in relation to the trends. And finally, the question regarding the views or respondents' views on the top 5 most important trends, we moved that question to the end because we believe it better sits in the end, so the respondents can rank or provide their views, taking into account the trends that already provided in the document and any additional trends as well. So there are no really significant changes in that regard. It's more about to make it a bit more streamlined and user-friendly and less complex. And the final change I would like to mention is in section 5 in relation to the joint actions. And also we proposed some changes to the restructuring of the question. So this section included originally two questions on the joint actions or what respondents, we asked respondents' views on possible joint actions. And it was raised at the IAASB discussion that the questions might be a bit too specific and focusing on the work plans and parallel actions. And maybe it would be better just to have a bit broader question and not focusing on the work plans that heavily. So again, it is not a change in the direction, is more of a change in the wording of how we raise that question. So it's a bit more higher level. And I think these really ends the list of the key changes. So I would just pause here. Tom and Gabriella, it's okay to take questions.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Okay. This is just on the survey itself, not on the timing. Any reactions? I think the team, from our perspective, my perspective, did a really nice job getting our board's input in. Obviously, I wasn't part of your discussion, but was aware of it. But I'd invite comments, or if people are generally supportive of the approach, then please let us know. I like the double thumbs up, sort of like an emoji even.
Well, thanks, Tom. I wanted to say you did a really good job of taking in the comments that I heard in the boardroom whenever we discussed it, which could be yesterday or the day before. And if the IAASB board members are happy, then I think we're in good shape. Thank you.
Josephine?
Thank you. Yes, I would just like to echo thanks to staff for turning around so very quickly, and very, very happy.
Robert?
Yes, I'm also very supportive, and thanks for the team. I want to make, however, one comment, and I just want to put it on the table with respect to the topic cluster B, changes geopolitical and regulatory landscape. Here we're talking about regulatory changes, B1. B3, we call for greater agility. And B4, we call for greater diversity. So from my perspective, these are positive notions. B2, we talk about risk of fragmentation. And in my perspective, this is could be a negative notion, connotation. I probably guess where it comes from. The question is, do we want to maybe rephrase it a little bit, like fragmentation, number one? And number two, if I look at fragmentation, is it always bad? Couldn't it be also have some benefits if you have on a local or jurisdictional level do some regulatory legislation? I know we are international standard setters and we want to have international standards put in place. Just food for thought from my side, and it's a comment. Yeah.
Or I'm not sure in my mind that it's incongruent to have some positive here, or some of it's not positive. It's just the reality of the marketplace. I think from a global standard setting perspective, that fragmented approach would run counter to our missions. And I personally could live with all four of these things here. It's a question of maybe we reorder them, but it doesn't bother me particularly. Is anyone else particularly concerned with this? No? So I hope you could live with that. I don't think it's a big thing, but I think this is the reality of what we're facing. If people move to fragmented approaches, then it's certainly not long-term beneficial for our global standards. Any other comments on the changes? So I think the team's done it. Oh, Akiko?
Thank you, Tom. I also like to echo what Josephine and Wendy said. Thank you so much for this quick fix for the team. Yes, and this isn't a comment, but just question on the B, trend B. So at the last part, you included including with investors and those charged with governance. Yeah, sorry if I missed anything, but can I have the why this change has been done? I don't disagree, but just like to know the background of this. And also, I'm curious. We said here investor, but not users, and is there intentional or not? Thank you.
Yes, so regarding the changes to including the reference to investors and those charged with governance, this is something that came from an IASBA board member, that it would be important to highlight the perspective and the importance of investors and those charged with governance under that topic as well. So we just wanted to give it a bit more prominence by including it as an example to that bullet point.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, because at the beginning we define user, and user include, of course, investor, but others. So yeah, if that is intentional or not, that is my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I think we can move to the next section. We're going to switch it, move to timing.
So the next, I'm just turning to if I can. So the next topic that we would wanted to discuss with the joint session is the timing of the release, and both boards discussed separately the staff proposal for the timing, which is a mid January release of the survey, and also a 90-day commenting period. And was really the staff proposal took into account the other surveys that are currently happening, are going to happen at from both boards. So we developed a staggered approach for that timing as well. Why the IASBA discussed that proposal, it was also raised that this survey is really asking for input on broad topics, and maybe there would be a benefit for extending the 90-day for a 120-day period, just to be sure that we are getting the input that we are looking from all organizations and for a broader range of stakeholders. So that was the IASBA proposal. And I think I would just turn to Willy and Tom here. Sorry, Willy and Ken.
Thank you, Sylvia. And I thought maybe before we hand it over to the boards, let me just give a little bit of background in terms of how we, after we had the joint working group meeting, we were tasked with look at the extent to which you could stagger the different consultations of the two boards. So I think the first principle is what we found. It's a difficult puzzle to fit. So we had a look at. Well, we soon found out that we can't just have one thing out in the market at any particular point in time, because then none of the two boards will get anything done. But what we can do is to look at when something goes out into the market and when the consultation period closes, and that's the way we try to stagger it. So and how it worked out based on the planning that Ken and I did is once we've established that the IESBA post-implementation reviews will go out a little bit later, as I understand, the end of March, we said, okay, well, then that opens the gap for having the strategy and work plan survey go out early in January. And then when it closes, there's about 4 or 5 weeks then before our post-implementation review closes. And when that closes, there's about 4 or 5 weeks before the ethics post-implementation review closes. And that's sort of the staggering. So to give stakeholders a little bit of a gap between when the one closes and the other one closes. So I'm not saying we're opposed to looking at increasing the exposure period, but I will be hesitant to just take a final decision today, because I think Ken and I probably just need to take it away and go and see what any knock-on effects will be, and any unintended consequences. And if the two boards are happy with that, for us to take it away and coordinate, obviously, with Gabriella and Tom, then we can just see what the optimal approach will be. Thank you, Tom.
I think Julia has explained it very well. I think from our board's perspective, the concern really was to recognize that some stakeholders, or it could be even many stakeholders, do consult internally. And just the process of collating views, gathering views, and some of our stakeholders, in fact, are very global. And organizing those meetings and having those conversations about the proposals in the surveys, etc., it is a time-consuming exercise. And maybe that kind of dovetails with what Elise just said, which is that actually, if those processes are actually happening on two concurrent consultations, and that actually might pressurize the stakeholders themselves. So, so having, extending the 90-day to 120-day and therefore potentially creating even a bit of a pressure on the stakeholders themselves, because now, if the closing periods on two consultations are essentially going to be coinciding, essentially they're going to have to juggle two balls in the air, so to speak. So as Julie says, maybe it's better for the staff teams to kind of just take that feedback back to the sort of ranch for us to kind of just digest this and kind of look at the implications, etc. And then we'll work with both Tom and Gabriella to see whether we can come to a landing, if the board would be comfortable leaving that into the hands of the staff teams to look at the, like I said, like the implications and the impacts, etc., and try to come up with an optimal scheduling of the releases in the coming periods.
Okay. Mark?
Well, thank you. I'm happy with the idea of the staff taking it away and looking at the timetable. I do think this is an important consultation for us. So really helpful if stakeholders do have time to give it due consideration and also get it through their own internal consultation and governance procedures to give us the best possible input. But I think we can leave it to you to sort out, and you can relax in the knowledge that I will hunt you down if it's not a good answer.
We've gone to unlisted phone numbers though, Mark. So Nancy Miller. There's two Nancys here, so
I love that there's two Nancys here. It doesn't happen very often to me anymore, so that's fabulous. And I am not going to resort to threats to get my way, unlike Mr. Babington. So I would echo Mark's comments, though, with respect to I'm very comfortable with the staff making the decision. I don't think there's a particularly great answer here, but while I appreciate Ken, I think did a good job of characterizing certainly my view about the level of effort that many organizations will go through to respond to this. I think there's also another competing factor here that needs to be considered, is that this is also busy season for many organizations. And so I think with the sort of that combination of impact, I think if we can find our way to adding another 30 days, I think it would just help improve the quality of the responses. And this, as Mark says, is such an important piece of information and input that we need into this process that if it is possible, I would appreciate consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy? Believe it or not, I'm having dinner with a Nancy tonight too. It happens to be my mom, but so it'll be my night at Nancy's here.
Thank you, Tom. So I'm supportive of leaving it to the staff to sort of sort out that magic timetable to see what would work best. But just to echo what the other Nancy said, I think this is a really important survey. So ultimately, you may not have a perfect solution, Willie and Sylvia, but I would think that you want to perhaps give priority to this one and then maybe shift some of the other ones to accommodate this particular one. I mean, this is also a joint survey, so it carries that additional element to it. If you need to go to 120 days, by all means. But if you think 90 days is the right number of days, then move the other ones. That would be what I add on.
David?
Thank you, Tom. So maybe just building a little bit on what Nancy said, I was actually thinking the opposite because it's the plan for 28-31. You know, it might be also an option potentially to start it a couple of months later and then let it run for the 120 days to avoid it. So maybe there's a couple of ways to solve it because I agree with what's been said. I think given the user group outreach we want to do, including some of the non-traditional ones in terms of responses, it is going to take them time, and getting to them will also take us time. So I think it's important for both boards that we get good feedback on this.
So this is one of the things I've learned, at least Billy's trained me well. There's a complicated algorithm to all of the planning on staggering of events and also timings to get to the necessary approvals. I think what I'm hearing is there's a bias to lengthening, but we need to see how, like, it's sort of like you have the balloon and you push the air to one end, right? Squeeze it in. So we just had to be conscious of all the other impacts because we all have our post-implementation reviews. IAASB has their consultation on firm culture and governance, and like we want to make sure that we don't mess the many things up that work in tandem. Bill, and then Ada.
I'll make this comment, but I'll also accept earlier, I'm probably the only one thinking this, but I am always conscious of time. And each time we add another 30 or more days in a process, it's dealing with a plan that's going out to 2031, when this is December 2025. I just think it's a very long time. And so whilst I don't have any question that we want, it's an important survey and we want good results, I sense with our elapsed period in some of our actions like this, people wait until late. Rather, if you give them another 30 days, they'll start the thinking 30 days later. So it's just another balancing view, that's all. But as I say, I've said this before and walked away sadly.
Well, we don't want to walk away sadly here, Bill. Edo?
Well, I guess, Bill, you're not the only one with this view. So we're talking about 9 questions. Clearly this needs to be given due consideration by the stakeholders, but I do think that for the volume that's currently sitting in this particular survey, 90 days is more than enough. And I feel much stronger about some of the other surveys that go out and the importance of those, and that impact more a time frame that's closer to us. I struggle with extending this to 120 days. I'm not going to fight it if the staff thinks this is the best way, whatever. But I'm in Bill's camp. Well, I do think if you give another 30 days, people are just going to start 30 days later.
You know, there may be multiple ways to deal with this too. Like we may be able to squeeze another couple of weeks out of this. You know, this is why you sort of have to see actually how the calendars work. Like we may have said it, I guess this would have been like April 20th would have been the due date. Maybe moving it to April 30th wouldn't have a big impact. You just don't know. But this is why we just really need to have the staff to go back and look at this. Ken and then Krista. Did you want to?
Yeah, no, I was just trying to find a sort of a way to thread that needle. I think it's the date we are envisaging is January 21st. Clearly, there's going to be some work at the staff level to set up the online survey because that's really the mechanism we're using. It's not a paper survey that we just post on the website and it's ready to go. So there's a bit of that logistical sort of legwork that needs to be done. But you know, once the holidays are over, essentially, you know, we're back on, I think, the 5th of January. So, you know, between the 5th and the 21st, you know, that's a span of 2 weeks. So really, I'm more thinking, again, maybe that's a conversation that we're going to have with the staff teams, is how quickly can we get the surveys up and going on the websites, and whether there's an opportunity to maybe bring the even the launch of the surveys 1 week earlier. Instead of the 21st, maybe it's the 14th or whatever. If it can take the staff teams 1 week to just set it up, and once the surveys are approved by the boards, essentially the content is set. So it's really just like I said, whatever needs to be done on the back end side of the IT to set it up, does this take 2 weeks? I'm not sure. I mean, we're gonna have to talk to the folks who help us set up the online surveys. But if there's a way to bring forward the release of the surveys, maybe around mid-January as opposed to third week of January, that could help a bit of the spacing of those surveys.
Christel?
Part of the issue for the respondents is to manage the answers to such surveys with their own duties. And we discussed, I think it's this morning or this afternoon, the question of publishing or making known the indicative agenda of where the two boards are going to the stakeholders to ask and to share this agenda, which would to some extent lower the stress, allow them to program their work on these, and could help also manage correctly the timing that we leave to them.
Tom, if I may. So just to be clear, what Christel is saying, and that is that it's a suggestion to the two boards that the boards make it public the schedule of the releases of the upcoming surveys and consultation papers and what have you, so that then stakeholders have visibility as to what they can expect is going to come their way in terms of input that the boards will be seeking from them. So if the boards are, again, comfortable with that, the staff teams can work on that and find the appropriate mechanism to publish, it's a communication piece to say, look, here's what you can expect from both IAASB and IESBA over the next 6 to 9 months in terms of public consultation, surveys, et cetera, et cetera. And, these are the anticipated timing of releases and so forth.
Thanks. So thinking about the timeline, I'd like to also lend my support for the 120 days because we are talking about strategic matters, and the quality of the responses will be better if we give them sufficient time. And we know in some jurisdictions with a December year end, middle of April will be quite a busy time. So I'm leaning towards more the 120 days timeline if we want quality responses. It's not about the number of questions, it's about the quality of the responses.
James?
I would probably suggest 90 days is proportionate to the ask, but perhaps the board could instruct staff to monitor as that deadline nears. We will be engaging with stakeholders and give permission with the board's concurrence to extend the deadline if that seems to be the case at the time. And we've extended it to short periods just to accommodate pressures if necessary. So it may be able to allow us to have flexibility while setting a path that everyone can work towards.
Okay, let me try to summarize again where I think.
The good thing is that now we have 7 options.
Yes.
for the staff to work.
We hear that people would suggest a little bit longer. We may be able to squeeze even within the current stag rate a little bit longer. But again, I think given that Ken and Billy and the team an opportunity to look on how we could keep things staggered, because remember, we want to give people time, but we also want to manage the flow, which goes to the next point, which is if we're transparent about what's coming down the pike this year, like what the flow of both of our boards' consultations are, and we can figure out a way to visually display that, that would be helpful. But then give us some discretion with the teams working with Gabriella and me, with a bias to maybe add a little bit of time up to 120 days for us to make a determination about the survey release time and the finalization date. Is that acceptable to the boards? I think that's okay. Great. So I think we've gotten acceptance in principle on the survey, the substance of the survey itself, and acceptance on the timing. But actually, technically, I think we need to get formal approval by the two boards of the joint survey. And so I guess in this sort of symbolic moment, we ask for a vote of both boards, and we could do it simultaneously, but both boards actually have to approve it separately too. But my guess is that all the hands will be raised and that we'll have no rejections and abstentions. But I'm always surprised every now and then. So by show of hands, who would like to approve the survey as amended? Okay, unanimous. Okay, I see it on the hood. So perfect. I don't even have to ask people about why they're dissenting and abstaining. So that's great. So congratulations to the team and to the boards. I think this is a really important step to show how that we're aligned and ready to coordinate on both on our surveys and our work. Billy and Ken, do you want to say anything about next steps? Other than we now know you're going to coordinate on timetables?
Yeah, that's a given. And also our thanks to the two staff teams that have been working on this. And yes, I think the next phase will be, as Ken has said, we'll put it in the online tool. I think the staff actually has already started working on it in the background in terms of putting it in the online tool. And then the important part that will go with this is the communication that needs to go with this from the joint as a joint communication to the two boards. Ken, I don't know if you.
Well, I would just say to the boards, don't think you've gotten off lightly, because this is only the start of the process. So we still have to come back to you with the responses to the surveys and what we're going to make out of them. So there's more work ahead of us.
Sense of realism now into the process. Well, no, real thanks to everyone for the effort. We know it's not always easy, but I think we've gotten to a good outcome, and certainly we'll need to encourage as many people to participate as possible in the survey. And I think with that, we officially close the business of this joint session. But Gabriella, you want to say anything else? No?
Very much so, everyone.
So tomorrow, I think both boards may be in the same position that we start at, the IAASB starts at 9 a.m. You guys start at 9 a.m. as well. We're going to, for the audit evidence and risk response group of our board, I was told that you need to meet up in the green room. Maybe you can meet up a little earlier. It was supposed to start at 5:45, but maybe I'll leave it to the team to determine that. And our board is anxiously awaiting revised versions of ISA for LCE maintenance approach project proposal and the PIR consultation survey on ISA 540 revised. So that should be coming any minute. So enjoy that bedtime reading tonight. So thank you all. Have a great evening. It's great to see everyone in a room together. And thank you to the teams for getting this going.